This conference will now be recorded.
All right, welcome everybody. It is now just after 6 p.m. on Tuesday, January 5th, 2021, and we'll call the meeting to order. I'd like to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 1 territory and the traditional homeland of the Métis people. And I would also like to wish council staff and all those tuning in a happy new year. Introductions, we still continue to hold our meetings here in the Winnipeg office, and some of our council members are still attending virtually. So on screen, we have Councillor Kumka.
Good evening, everyone.
We have Councillor Randall.
Hello.
And Councillor Axworthy. Thank you. And joining us for a delegation in a few minutes is Robert Elms. Welcome, Robert. We'll be with you in a moment. Around the table, we have.
Happy New Year, everyone. Mike Bartmanovich.
Raymond Moore, CAO.
And Penny McMorris, Mayor. All right. We have the adoption of the agenda. Be it resolved, the agenda be adopted as presented. May I have a mover? Mike, thank you. Second? Erwin, thank you. Any additions? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Carrie, thank you. Moving on to the minutes. Be resolved, the minutes of the December 15th, 2020 regular council meeting be adopted as presented. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second? Graham, thank you. Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Carrie, thank you. All right, moving on to delegations. I would like to welcome you, Robert. Robert Elms is the president of the Manitoba Electric Vehicle Association, and I had the pleasure of listening to you at a meeting in Donator Climate Change Conference a year or so ago, and I'm hoping you can shed some light on the future of electronic vehicles in Manitoba and what our municipalities should be looking for in terms of chargers. And I know you have some knowledge of RRM, so that's helpful. And I know council will have some questions for you, so feel free to unmute your mic, Robert, and the floor is yours. Oops, nope. Can't hear you. You're muted, Robert.
You're muted, Robert.
You're muted. I don't know how to unmute you.
The microphone
You can
icon
unmute
is-
him.
The microphone
You
icon.
can unmute him.
All you do is you can send an unmute request.
Yay, there you go.
Oh, there we go.
Thank you. Isn't
Thank you.
technology wonderful?
Oh, yes. Welcome.
Thanks very much for having me, folks. I appreciate that. And Penny, I appreciate the kind words saying that you enjoyed listening to me.
I did.
A year ago. Thank you very kindly. I enjoyed being there. It was a terrific conference, and it was great to see the degree of enthusiasm and knowledge that was there amongst many of the participants. So,
So
I'm not entirely sure whether or not you want me to lead off, giving you a little bit of information about EVs and how we're going here in Manitoba, or if you want me to just leave it open to questions from you folks. So I'll leave that up to you.
okay, I would like you to start off, Robert. You have the knowledge on EVs in Manitoba and where you think they're going and how quickly and what our needs might be at Victoria Beach.
Sure. Our province is behind in fast chargers. Those are the chargers that people need to use when they are taking a long trip, the same way we're used to stopping in at a gas station to fill up our vehicle. And it's the fast chargers that really make it possible for people, for the vast majority of people, to buy electric vehicles. Norway's an excellent example of that. It's not the only one, but it's by far the best example of that. And just a few minutes ago, I sent to all of you a document that was prepared not for this event, it was prepared to provide some explanation to the provincial government and to Manitoba Hydro as to why the province and Manitoba Hydro should be investing in level 3 fast charging throughout the province. But the information that's contained in that is just some of the information that also provides, I think, some understanding of why it's reasonable for municipalities to be investing in level 2 charging. We are changing over to electric transportation, especially when we're talking about highway traffic vehicles. The change is happening much faster in those places that had the fast chargers, but we're starting to get those here, as possibly some of you know. We've got them across the Trans-Canada Highway now. Tesla just asked me earlier last year where they should be building their new chargers, and I suggested the next route that they should be taking them up is up the Yellowhead. So they're making plans for the future as well. And in the document that I sent to you folks, you'll see that I showed a map of Manitoba and where all the fast chargers need to be. And I think you'll probably be pleased to see that several of those fast chargers are located on routes that take people to and from Victoria Beach. The provincial government, we've certainly been pushing them to get them to make these investments, but haven't been putting all our eggs in that basket. We're also talking with private industry, and we have one company right now that has agreed to install fast chargers between Winnipeg up the west side of Lake Manitoba on up to Thompson. So that's just one company, and we're talking with other companies as well. So that's going to happen either this year or early next year. That will partly depend on how the new federal government subsidy programs are laid out and their timeline. We know they're putting them out this year, but whether they put them out in time for the construction to take place this year or not, we don't know that yet. But in any case, they'll be out next year for sure, up to Thompson. And we are talking with some other private sector players, so they will be going in other places as well. So basically, although we're far behind other provinces here, only Manitoba and Saskatchewan are way behind all the other provinces, we are going to be catching up very quickly over the next year and a half, 2 years. And I just submitted a request to our annual request to Manitoba Public Insurance to ask them to give us an update as to how many new electric vehicles have been registered in the province this past year. I don't expect that I'll get that for probably not for another week and a half, but within a week and a half, we'll have some idea. What we do know is that although vehicle sales, generally speaking, have been down, not just here in Manitoba, but Canada, North America, and indeed around the world, vehicle sales have been down in most places. But in most places around the world, the reports we're getting on a quarterly basis have shown that electric vehicle sales as a percentage have been increasing. So we know that it's going that way. With regard to the type of chargers that really I would strongly suggest you should be looking at, they're what we call level 2 chargers, or often referred to as destination chargers, because really they're the chargers that somebody can plug into and let the vehicle sit there for a few hours to charge itself up to a full charge. Basically, when somebody's not in a rush to go somewhere, they're going, in your case, to as I love to do, go up to the beach, spend the day there, and go get some of my favorite ice cream and walk around and visit friends. I mean, of course, for those folks for whom Victoria Beach is their home or their home away from home in summertime, they're going to be staying there for a day or 2 days or for a weekend. And so they don't need a fast charger for that. They just need, as we call them, a destination charger or level 2 charger, they're often referred to. These are relatively inexpensive. You can install several of them without breaking the bank. For the price of what would cost to install one level 3 charger, you could, depending on which chargers you decide to go with, you quite likely get a half dozen or a dozen or more level 2 chargers installed for much less than what you'd pay for a level 3 charger. So they're economical to install. They're also fairly easy to maintain. They're not complicated. Yeah, that's in a nutshell. There's a lot more I can tell you, and everybody who knows me knows I can talk on for hours quite happily about electric vehicles. But I'll stop now, and I'll leave it to you to ask questions so that you can kind of guide me as to where you would like to take the conversation next.
Okay, thanks, Robert. Erwin's got his hand up.
The vast majority of people in the vehicle restricted area drive up on Friday night, Saturday morning, and stay till Sunday night or Monday morning. And you know, the concern I have with level 2 is that we would not have enough charging capacity, or we'd have to figure out a way to jockey cars around in order to be able to charge more than 2 or 3 units, or whatever number of level 2 units you put in. Doesn't it make more sense in the short run to just put in a bunch of electrical parking lot boxes and have people plug their own level 1 charger in? We could put a dozen in. We could put 20 in for the cost of 10 level 2s and accomplish better service for our unique situation in the summertime.
What do you think, Robert?
Yeah, that's as Penny knows, it was something that I actually discussed with her on the phone when we talked a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And that's a very realistic approach. If in fact you know that's really what most of the people who are coming up there are going to be needing, then as I said to Penny, that's a very reasonable approach. You still probably need to have a couple of level 2 chargers, simply because there are going to be some people who are coming up to visit friends for an afternoon or something like that, and they can't wait. But yeah, absolutely. And one of the things you can look at, if you don't have, pardon me, if you don't have the wiring in place now for these, as you very correctly called them, level 1. Basically, they're just the 110 volt, what you and I are used to plugging our block heaters into. If you don't have the wiring in place for that right now, it might be wise to talk with the electrician about installing cabling that later down the road could support level 2, because as we all know, the difference in the cost between the cable that'll carry the 240 as opposed to 120 really isn't all that much. The biggest cost probably is the cost of the electrician, him or herself. So yeah, if you can run that kind of cabling in and right now install a bunch of 110 volt plugs at most of them with just a couple of level 2 chargers, then you are what we call level 2 ready or EV ready, meaning that as the need grows for level 2 charging, then you can simply swap out those 110 boxes for the level 2 chargers. And something that you at this point can look at is getting really relatively inexpensive level 2 chargers. You probably don't need to be. Pardon me?
Let me just disconnect it.
Sorry, we're having technical difficulties on this, and we missed a whole chunk of what you were saying.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
we're trying to signal you timeout and everything to get you to stop.
Sorry, Robert.
No problem.
It was not too long after Erwin was talking to you about.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's right. Um, Installing right now a cable that is capable of carrying 220 or sorry 240 volts and an appropriate amperage for level 2 chargers, extending that down one row of vehicle parking, and then simply at this point in time, at most of those parking stalls, installing a 110 box. So what we have in our walls that we plug our lamps into, that'll provide good charging for many people. You know, doing a little calling around, a little investigating, you can probably find out whether or not you need 2 or 3 level 2 chargers at this point in time. I would suggest you probably do need at least a couple of 2 or 3 level 2 chargers. You can connect those up, and all the other parking stalls just have a 110 box, and people can do what we call a trickle charge or a level 1 charge, which, yeah, if they're coming in on Friday night or Saturday morning and staying and not leaving till Sunday afternoon, that'll help them out substantially, depending on the
Robert,
distance they go.
what's the average kilometer range of these EV cars?
It's growing substantially now. The vehicles that most people are going to be driving up to Victoria Beach, quite frankly, are going to be vehicles like the Tesla Model 3. Those are the most popular highway electric vehicles in Manitoba and indeed around the world now. The Tesla Model 3 and the Model Y. And they do come with varying sizes of batteries, but they're all over 300 kilometers in range basically now. And in fact, most of the ones that are, or at least many of the ones that Manitobans are getting, have a range of 500 kilometers during the summertime. So not a problem with a trickle charger. There are the vehicles.
My neighbor has one, and he doesn't bother even plugging it in when he gets down because it's 90 kilometers, you know, each way. So that's maybe 250 kilometers. That's lots of range.
Yep, and that's why I say that's the kind of thing where you know, if you can do a little survey of the community and get some sort of an idea as to how many people are driving a long distance and are going to need, for instance, maybe a level 2 charger if somebody's coming in from Brandon or something. If you've got people from Brandon who are in the community in the summertime, or I'm choosing Brandon as an example. But if most people are just coming up from Winnipeg, then frankly, the level 1 will do them just fine if they're driving something like a Tesla. There are electric vehicles out there that have much less range. They're what we often refer to as first generation modern electric vehicles. And they have ranges around 140 kilometers, 150 kilometers, 160 kilometers. But most people aren't driving those up to Victoria Beach.
Yeah, that'd be flirting with danger.
Yeah.
All right, Steve? You're on mute, Steve.
Yeah. So, I mean, just to answer your question real quick, the Mini Cooper gets 177 kilometers, the Volkswagen's 198, and it just sort of goes up from there. So, I mean, really, you're just kind of looking at some of the really low ends, which wouldn't be able to make it up. But anybody who's going to be coming up to Victoria Beach is going to be keeping them into consideration, like myself. That's one of the main reasons why I haven't purchased an EV yet, is just, you know, I need somewhere to charge it during the summer. But I mean, if we're talking about level 1, 2, and 3s, the difference, I mean, if you're talking about level 1, you're looking at anywhere between 8 to 12 hours to charge, level 2, 4 to 6 hours to charge, and level 3, 20 to 30 minutes to charge.
Yeah, we're not even looking at level 3.
Yeah. So, but it was mentioned. So again, with a level 2 with installation, you're looking at least two grand, and then the average is really going to be $2,000 for the installation unless we got a pretty good deal. But if we put right now at the forefront as many level just box outlets as we can, then we can prepare for either next year or the year after then to go for level 2s, because at that point we have a decent infrastructure where nobody's going to get stranded. My biggest concern with doing the level 2s is budgeting, and then saying, well, we will only grab the level 2s, not the level 1s. People like myself might see the chargers, think I'm going to get an EV, and then somebody isn't able to charge because, exactly as Erwin said, we have to shuffle. And you might get somebody that wants to go down wants to go to the beach and have a good time all day. The only problem is that now somebody's not able to charge their car up, and we stranded them in VB, and the liability against the RM if that were to happen. So
No liability there.
No liability.
If
Well,
you're going to drive an electric car, you better check to make sure where those charging stations are.
Well, if we're saying that we're going to help to manage and shuffle people around, then like we're the ones who are in control of that infrastructure. Anyway, the bottom line is that I don't want anybody to be stranded. So if we just simply go for the level 1s, then we can be decently assured that we have the infrastructure to have a good step from, and then we can do the level 2s at a future budget. But I would say at least this year, it doesn't make any sense. And I would say probably for the next 2 years, it doesn't make any sense. So this year and next year, we can put in as many level 1s as we can. And then once we have a good solid base, then we can go for the level 2s. I'm 100% for EVs. It's just, it has to be done right.
Yeah, you don't have to spend the $2,000 to get a level 2 charger. You can get, because you're not tying them together, you're not coupling them up to systems to monitor them, and all those sorts of things. At this point, you don't need to. You can send for $500-600 a piece. You can get very good quality level 2 chargers. That's the very kind of fact that we donated to Oakhammock Marsh a couple of years ago, and they're very sturdy, extremely sturdy, in fact, and they do a very good job. So if you've got a couple of those, then if somebody does want to have somebody come up to visit them who's got an electric vehicle and they're just coming up for the day on Saturday and they can't wait around for a trickle charge overnight, then you got them there, and if they're at the back end of the parking lot where they're not interfering with somebody, you don't have to be shuffling people around. You can just have a sign simply saying, this is for electric vehicle charging only. And this isn't something that we have to reinvent the wheel here. It's already been done for us long ago in other jurisdictions, and this kind of thing has worked extremely well. And you also don't, as some of you do realize, you don't have to worry about liability in this case. You're providing this as a service to folks. It's been done so many places around the world, and here in Canada very successfully. And nobody's ever been sued for not moving vehicles.
It's actually it's caveat emptor is basically what it is. Yeah,
it is. It is.
How do we recover the cost? How do we charge for this charging?
What are others doing?
The cost of the electricity for level 2s is so inexpensive. Quite frankly, I'll give you a great example. The Tesla Model 3 or the Tesla Model Y, which are the most popular vehicles in Manitoba, and the type of vehicle that'll be coming up there. If you're like me, okay, I'll admit this, nobody's writing this down in the minutes. I have a bit of a lead foot occasionally. I like to accelerate fast. I like driving. I will use $350 worth of electricity for the year to drive. The average Manitoba is driving roughly 20,000, roughly 20,000 kilometers a year if you're out in rural Manitoba. That's the average. Most people are somewhere around closer to $300, $325. So that's for an entire year to drive 20,000 kilometers. So that'll give you an idea that, quite frankly, over the entire summer, you're not going to see very much electricity used up by these folks who are plugging in. You won't have that many plugging in to begin with, and they won't plug in that often. And when they do, they will not be taking very much electricity. And you're asking, what do most folks do? In most cases where they're installing level 2 chargers, or if they're just making level 1s, as we call trickle chargers available, most cases are not charging anything. It's not worth the hassle to put in place a collection system and monitor it. And it's not worth it.
Thank you. Graham, you had your hand up?
Unmute, Graham.
Thank you. Okay, let me unmute myself. Thank you, Robert. Just to touch on a couple of things that you've said. If we were to proceed with a whole batch of level 1s, it's our understanding that even that would require some upgrade of the electrical box utility in our parking lot structure. So from what you said, it would make sense that any upgrade in that would tend to foresee eventually some level 2 chargers. So that's a useful point if you get what I'm getting at. Secondly, you suggested a survey of our community. We've already talked about that, and we'll likely be doing so. On the survey, would it not be of interest to inquire how many people are likely to opt for hybrid vehicles when we're trying to anticipate what our taxpayers' requirements might be?
Now that level 3 charging is becoming available, the sales of hybrids will drop off. It's what has happened literally in every other part of the world, and in fact has happened here in Canada too. In those locations where fast chargers start to become available, folks don't want to be hauling around the internal combustion engine. It's extra weight, they don't need it. It's extra complications and maintenance, and they don't need it. So the electric vehicles end up being the vehicle of choice. That's the short answer. And by the way, with regard to recovering costs, if you wanted to recover some of the costs of or all the costs of installing this kind of infrastructure, one of the things you could do quite simply is to simply charge an extra $1 or an extra $2 for anybody who's using the charging equipment. Just add that price onto the parking or whatever fee you figure works out for you. But that's one of the things that's been done, where you've got a controlled parking lot and you control entry and exit.
Well, $1 or $2 or whatever, just so that people aren't tempted to park there and use that plug for the whole week or the whole summer. There should be a bit of a charge that would on them so that they will be more inclined to share the 10, 20, however many are available. But that answers my questions. So thank you.
Thank you. Erwin, you had your hand up. Sorry, Steve, you're next.
I was just going to say, how about $5 or $10 per day?
Well, then you're
$10 a season.
then you're almost
We got capital costs.
penalizing. But then you're almost penalizing the electric car driver who's saving money on saving the environment, etc., for parking. I mean, I think a small fee, but not. Anyway.
Well, the way I'm sorry to butt in again, the way it's structured right now, our parking lot tenant pays the hydro bill, so he's going to want to have something to say about how and if we charge for sucking up his electricity.
And you will find, I think, probably to a person, certainly this has been our experience within the association. Electric vehicle drivers are not at all opposed to paying their fair share, as folks put it out there. Nobody's expecting a free ride. We do know that in the case of businesses, that they're going to pay for the level 2 charger because it attracts people to their business, and so it makes it worthwhile for them. To some extent, that may be possible, or maybe the case for your community to some extent too. But I think for the most part, you're probably trying to just provide a service for residents and visitors. And that being the case, I think having a reasonable charge to use the chargers is it's not a bad thing. And quite frankly, if you're charging an extra $1 or $2 for somebody who's going to be using the charging equipment, I can assure you that will more than cover the cost of the electricity. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you. Steve, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that the gentleman who was with us the other day, or the last meeting, quoted, I think he was around $1,500 for the installation, he was quoted as saying. I also found another website, which was a Canadian website, which was saying that in Canada it's usually around $1,500. And I saw a second one that was also from Canada, specifically for Canada, which is CS General Electric. .ca, which was quoting as saying $2,000 per installation for commercial level 2. So, and then we're also talking about extending all of our electrical infrastructure over. So, I mean, to say it's going to be a couple $100, I mean, most of the prices of level 2 are, yes, they're starting around $500, $700, but then we have to consider all the money it's going to cost to put it in the infrastructure to bring that electricity over. So yeah, it's absolutely fortify right now, but we have to plan for the long term, not just the short term. And then the second thing, I'd just like to remind everybody that if we're going to start charging for EVs, then I'd just like to point out that we do currently allow for second and third vehicles to have a discount. So
yeah, and that's up to the parking lot operator as well. And that's a separate discussion. But yeah, Mike.
Robert, at the beginning you were talking about plans to put charging stations up the west side of Lake Manitoba. Do you know if there are any plans for the east side of Lake Winnipeg? Is there anything in the offing for charging stations between Winnipeg and Points North?
Yeah, going up between the lakes, really, it's something that at this point in time and for the next few years is not really financially viable. Doesn't mean we won't find somebody who may want to make a long-term investment, but at this point in time, going up the west side of Lake Manitoba provides an opportunity to
service the north.
Make it an investment that'll pay off sooner. There just isn't the type of traffic, nor is there the population going up between lakes Winnipeg and Manitoba to make a business case at this point in time. But we can make a business case going up the west side, and so that's why at this point in time. But going up to the Interlake, for instance, getting up to Ericsdale, for instance, yeah, absolutely, and going up the east side of Lake Winnipeg, because there are cottages and people living up that way. Yeah, absolutely. We are saying Lac de Bonnie, and there is a charging station going in at Selkirk. It should be going in this year, I believe that's right. So we've also said that forgive my brain here, was a long night last night. At the casino, or somewhere close to the casino on the way up to Victoria Beach. That's a good location as well.
Make a lot of sense in the hotel parking lot.
Yeah.
Okay,
right.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Robert?
no, but I mean, just on that one point at the casino, if they're going to put one at the casino, then why would we look at why would be interested in looking at level 2 or 3 charger in the short term? Because they can very easily go there, get a quick charge, and then they got their hookup both ways. So
yeah,
a lot of beautiful country between the casino and Points North.
They aren't putting in one at the casino at this point in time. We'll certainly be talking with them about it, as we're talking with folks in other parts of the province. but there are no plans to put one in at the casino right now. That's just the location that we are recommending as one of the locations where there should be level 3 charging in the province.
Okay.
But it'll always come about that even with level 3 charging, we're not going to get a lot of level 3 chargers put in quickly. And so as the number of electric vehicles increases, you will see, as is, again, what has happened everywhere else in Canada and the United States and indeed through Europe and around the world, is that people want to charge at home. And by home, I mean house at home and also the cottage. That destination, that's where they want to do their charging. That's one of the advantages of electric vehicle. You know, you get home, you plug in, and when you leave home to go wherever you're going, you have the comfort of knowing you're all charged up and ready to go, and you don't have any problems. You don't have to worry that when you get to that charging station down at the casino, that there are already 2 other cars sitting there waiting to charge up. People don't want to be in that position. Eventually, we'll get to the same place that we're at now with gas-powered vehicles. There will be enough gas stations. There'll be enough charging stations, just as there are now enough gas stations, enough fast charge stations around to accommodate everybody. But we're not there yet. We won't be there for quite some time. So these destination chargers really are the backbone of the system. And I'll say it again, because you are not looking at installing, you don't have to look at installing a lot of chargers, level 2 chargers at the parking lot. You only need 2 or 3. You don't need to have them connected to one another. You don't need what Steve very accurately referred to as the commercial level 2 chargers. You don't need a commercial level 2 charger. You can get the same kind of level 2 chargers that we are installing in our homes, and you can and we installed as an association. We paid to have installed at Oak-Hammock Marsh. You can have those installed in your parking lot just fine. They're very, very good quality, and as I say, you can pick them up now for $600-700, no problem. So if you put in a level 2, if you put in a cable that goes the full length of one strip of your parking lot. So it's capable of carrying the current that you need to operate level 2 chargers on. Just install 2 or 3 right now, and the rest of them, make them all level 1s. Then you're ready to go. As the need grows, you basically you won't have to pay the extra charge of having the electrician come back in and run new cable and all the rest of it that goes with it. You can make it a small investment at this point in time is what I'm urging you to do. Don't go overboard, really don't.
Okay. Well, thank you very much.
With everyone helping look after our finances, there's not much chance of us going overboard.
Good. I'm glad. Yeah. And by the way, we also will be more than happy to provide people who can help you do the technical evaluation if that's something you need to do at some point down the line. We'll be more than happy to do that. We've certainly got people within the association who have that skill, that knowledge, and that experience, and we're tapped into others across the country who can certainly provide that kind of advice. I provide the general advice right now, but when it gets to the nitty-gritty, we'll be more than happy to introduce you to those folks.
Okay.
Hey, Robert,
All
do
right.
you drive a Tesla?
Pardon
Robert, do you drive a Tesla?
You know, it's one of the advantages of being the president of the association. For one thing, on one hand, I really shouldn't be endorsing one vehicle over another, but as the president, I get the great thrill of driving everything, literally.
Are they as fast as they say? They say that the Tesla is really quick.
Yeah, they really are. The Model 3 Performance Edition will accelerate from 0 to 100 kilometers per hour in basically about 3 seconds.
4 seconds, yeah. That's fast.
Yeah, three. Yeah.
Imagine breathing for 2 slips in an electric car.
Okay.
You know, I could talk on all night along with you about this, but when COVID is over with and there's an opportunity to come on up and share an ice cream cone and maybe something a little harder than that, I'd be more than happy to, and I know Lois would be more than happy to join me. So if you want to invite me up this summer, if the restrictions are lifted, then we can have a great conversation about all these vehicles. In the meantime, a great thanks to all of you for doing this. I mean that genuinely on behalf of the association. And it's been my pleasure to have an opportunity to chat with you and get to know you a little better.
Thank you very much for
Thanks,
attending.
Robert. Excellent presentation.
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Robert. We'll be in touch.
Night, folks.
Good night. Okay, well, there's something more for us to discuss come budget time. Right?
Yep. Discussion it'll be.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope that was worthwhile for everybody. All right, sorry, lost my agenda here. Moving on to accounts and finances. Be it resolved that the following list of accounts be approved for payment. Accounts payable checks 8953, 8963 in the amount of $10,267.61. December 24th payroll in the amount of $28,508.10. And Visa in the amount of $1,186.56. Erwin, would you like to move that?
Indeed.
Thank you. And second, Graham, thank you. Any discussion, Erwin?
As always, I've reviewed this, and this is actually one of the lowest, if not the lowest check run I've ever seen. Well done, Raymond.
Any other discussion? All right, all those in favor?
All right.
Carried. Thank you. Sorry. All right, moving on to other business. Bylaw 1613, council indemnities, second and third readings. So be it resolved that bylaw 1613, authorizing the payment of indemnities and expenses to the mayor and council, be given second reading. May I have a mover? Mike, thank you. Second. Graham, thank you very much. Any discussion on this indemnity? All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Third and final reading, be it resolved that bylaw 1613, authorizing the payment of indemnities and expenses to the mayor and council, be given third reading and passed. This is a recorded vote automatically. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Erwin, second. Thank you. Any further discussion?
Again, just for the record, we're looking at an average increase of what, 2.2%.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you very much. Unanimous? I will sign these right on this. All right. Moving on to the appointment of the deputy mayor. Be it resolved that Councillor Bartmanovich be appointed deputy mayor. May I have a mover? Graham, thank you. Second. Erwin, thank you. Any discussion? This is the switch. Graham was the deputy reeve for the first couple years, and we've decided to move that around. And Councillor Bartmanovich has gratefully agreed to accept. All right.
Graciously.
Graciously.
Not grateful.
Not
Yeah, yeah.
No, not gracious.
I've talked to Graham. I don't know if I'm grateful.
Quit.
But thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Graham.
Mike,
Yeah.
the signing bonus is in the mail.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
I think we just discussed that previously. It was the 2.2%.
That's right, yeah.
All right, all those in favor?
All right.
Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Mike. And thank you, Graham.
Moving on to something a little less riveting. Yeah.
All right. Be it resolved that the RM of Victoria Beach Council approve the 2021 Moonlight Inn lease agreement between Aaron Vincent Alkane and municipality. Further be it resolved that the mayor and CAO be authorized to sign said agreement on behalf of the municipality. May I have a mover? Graham, thank you. Steve, second. Thank you. Discussion? Graham?
It's very straightforward, same as we were presented with last time, but it got tabled so that that extra clause could be inserted regarding the upper level, which has been done. So the resolution looks fine as it stands right now for first reading. Thank you.
This is a resolution, not a
It's a
first reading.
resolution, so there's no first reading here.
I'm sorry. Resolution. I correct myself again.
And Aaron, you've spoken to Aaron about this as well, Graham, and I know Raymond has, so. all
Yes,
good?
Aaron is aware of the conditions. Yeah.
All right, any further discussion? All those in favor? Carried, thank you. Up next, appointment to the police board. Be it resolved that, okay, do you want me to do this one?
I think that's what you wanted to.
I added on to this resolution. Be it resolved that Elizabeth Murray be appointed as municipality's representative on the Victoria Beach Police Board. Further be it resolved that Ms. Murray be appointed as chair of the police board. Could I get a mover? I will discuss it. Yes, thank you, Steve. Second? Mike, thank you. I had a few things to say about this appointment. John Gow, number one, is our current chair, and he has been our council appointed citizen rep for 8 years on the BV Police Board. So I would really like to thank him for his years of service. He was amazing when I worked with him. And I know when he took over as chair from me, he was a great guy to work with. And
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I quite enjoyed working with him.
Yeah. And he is willing to work with the incumbent and help them out, which is great. He's had a good conversation with Liz. The other 2 members of the police board include 1 member of council. Right now, that's Mike. And the other member is appointed by the province. Right now, that is Al Rear. Al's term is also up, but Mr. Bazan has been a little busy, I believe, and we need him to make the appointment. And then it goes to the Minister of Justice, I believe.
Is that federal or provincial?
It's provincial.
Well, then
No, I
we
said
missed
Bazan, I meant
yeah.
Owasco. I get them mixed up all the time.
And now he's going to be busy.
Owasco. So I'm sorry, yeah. Mr. Owasco makes the recommendation. It goes to the Minister of Justice, I believe, and then they bring that individual on. So my concern is if John's leaving, I don't know when Al will be leaving, you're our constant.
Yeah.
And so if Liz can come in as the chair and council appoints the chair and the vice chair, right now you're vice chair.
I wasn't aware of that, but okay.
Right, I asked John,
Oh,
you are
okay.
vice chair and Al is secretary. John, we felt that it would be best to leave you as vice chair because I can heartfully say it is a lot more work as chair.
Oh,
And I
heck,
think you've got enough on your plate.
Mhm.
And person that we're bringing in, if I get this, is if council approves this, is only there till the end of our term. And then we can reinstitute her. I'm losing my words. So
yeah.
we can extend her term
Mhm.
after the election, or whoever gets elected.
Or whoever gets elected,
Right.
yeah.
So that's my rationale for council appointing the new person as chair. Mike stays as vice chair. There's continuity there,
Mhm.
and we don't know who's going to or when Al will be replaced. So I just wanted everybody to know that. Great.
Quick question. If and when Al is replaced by the normal course of events, that's a provincial responsibility. Does council get consulted on that at all? Do you know?
Nope, not at
Okay.
all.
Makes it easy then. Nothing for us to do. Good.
Nope, that's got, we don't get any input in that. Yeah. So, and right now, both Mike and Al are permanent residents. And the appointee is a seasonal resident and a female. So we're, bringing in the female again. But Liz is a lawyer by training. She is a seasonal resident. They're building a new place on Sunset. And she's got the time and the interest to take on this position. So
I think it balances things out that she's associated with the VRA area as well.
Mhm.
Her contact information, email and phone, because there's a meeting coming up on the 12th.
Yeah, it's on the same page.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to make sure council knew my rationale behind all of this. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
All right.
Carried. Thank you so much. I will advise Liz and I will make sure the police board has all her information. And now that she has been appointed, she will be getting the criminal records check, child abuse check. She will have to sign all the documents involved and be on the police board as well. There's about 3 or 4 of them, I think. So she's aware of all that. Okay, thank you very much. Moving on to sick leave policy 2021. Oh, my battery's running. Oh, well, we'll get there. Be it resolved, the Arm of Victoria Beach Council approved the sick and personal leave policy 2021/1 for non-union employees. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second? Anybody? Going once? Anybody want to second this? Erwin, thank you. Discussion?
Just a question, basically puts non-union employees sick leave benefits in line with
On
union,
par with the newly
Yeah.
agreed to CBA.
which is certainly normal practice in most
That's what
organizations.
council did previously.
Yeah, where you have
Yeah.
a blend of union and non-union employees, so absolutely fine.
Any other comments, questions? Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to bylaw 1614. Be it resolved that bylaw 1614, regulating the use of off-road vehicles in the municipality, be given first reading. May I have a mover? Steve, thank you. Second? Can I second?
Yeah.
I'll second.
Absolutely.
Yeah, to discussion. Okay, so discussion. As you all know, we've had some concerns recently about snowmobiles, walkers, etc. And our current off-road vehicle ORV bylaw excludes snowmobiles, whereas on municipal property. Whereas, in fact, in the ORV Act, snowmobiles are considered an ORV. So I think there's a lot of things at play here. I think there's more people coming to the beach.
Absolutely.
So there's more people walking, there's more people biking, there's more people cross-country skiing, and there's more people using their snowmobiles. And the majority of them are using them just fine, appropriately. They're not screaming around the area. But what we are finding is that they're also not staying to ORV or snowmobile trails. Now, ours aren't necessarily marked very well. There are snowman trails that are marked. You should be a member of Snowman to use them. If you're not, you can be fined.
You can.
And they do get you all around the RM on the outside, on the ice, and they get you as far as the sports club on 59 in the ditch and up 504 to the end of 504 and then on to Elk Island. So there's no shortage of trails for a snowmobiler to try to use. No shortage of lake. But we don't want anyone to get hurt. And we don't want anyone, we don't want a war over snowmobiles. They've been here for so long. People enjoy them. So we just need to find a way to make sure that we're following the intent of the actual ORV bylaw and trying to find a place for everybody to cooperate and stay safe.
We're living in extraordinary times. And I just hate to think that we are going to take a measure to address something that is happening due to extraordinary circumstances. Number one, COVID, but there's something else as well. Anybody who lives in Winnipeg and comes out to the lake, in Winnipeg, you've got 4 inches of snow. At the lake, we've got 2 feet of snow. A lot of the increase in snowmobiles is not necessarily people in Victoria Beach. It is people who are trailing their snowmobiles coming up for the snow. And they are taking advantage of the fact that it's beautiful Victoria Beach. I don't foresee this being an issue once the pandemic has been addressed and the pandemic is over. I think we will see a return to the way things have always been, where snowmobilers, primarily local snowmobilers, and cross-country skiers and pedestrians have coexisted quite nicely. I don't recall ever hearing of complaints between snowmobilers and pedestrians. Also, I think while it's well-intentioned, the brush is creating too broad of a stroke in terms of lumping a snowmobile in with an ORV. We're talking about two completely different times of year. Winter with snowmobiles, there are markedly less people around. Snowmobiles do not pose as much of a sound risk. They do not pose a fire risk, and they don't pose any more or less of an accident risk. And again, I think that this winter is going to be extraordinary because of things that are outside of our control. And I just am not comfortable in enacting a bylaw to address something that has been brought about by extraordinary circumstances, which may be overkill under normal non-pandemic times.
And yet I would agree. I would argue with you on one point. I think more people are realizing how great it is to be at their cottage in the winter. More people are building homes, and I think more people will be coming to stay for this, or for longer portions of the season. They will be coming up during holidays. I do agree, though, that COVID has just seen a lot of people come up to get away from the city, and people not leaving the beach to go south. So they're also, it's not just people coming up. I think that, but
the majority of the issues, I believe, are with people coming up. You're right. There are a lot of people that I mean, we had a significant turnover in seasonal and permanent residences in the RM. And the folks that are new property owners in the RM, they're going to learn sooner or later that these are the rules for any type of off-road vehicle in the RM.
Steve, you have your hand up.
So I know that there's been an incredible amount of talk on Facebook about how snowmobiles are not ORVs. I want to clarify something right now, which is that the province strictly defines it as such. And I can read this off for you. The definition from the ORV statute is off-road vehicles means any wheeled or tracked motorized vehicles designated or adapted for cross-country travel on land, water, ice, snow, marsh, swampland, or other natural terrain, and includes but is not limited to, and the very first thing they say under A is a snowmobile. They are one and the same. Now, as for the other points, I'm not going to go through the whole ORV statute as it's written, but I could for a while. One of the things that we don't do, and Curtis has been asking for a while and Curtis, for those who don't know, is our building inspector, is to be able to have a registry as to how many cisterns are being installed every year. But if you speak to some of the local builders, some of the local plumbers, they can tell you that that has been one of their best sources of income this year, is installing cisterns and winterizing cabins across the board. Now, I absolutely do hear from the people who are saying, oh, this is just a one-off, this is a one-off, this is a one-off. The problem is, once you've winterized your cabin and you realize how gorgeous it is at the beach, it's really hard not to come up anymore. And I have a very hard time believing that a lot of people are winterizing their cabins and saying, oh, it's not COVID anymore, we're all going to stay home for the next 100 years or however long they stick around for. I think in terms of the future, it's done. People are going to start coming up more often. And what we're seeing, and obviously it will subside a little bit next year because some people will be going down south, but again, people have winterizer places, is exactly what we've seen, which is that snowmobiles are going across areas where they've never been before. This is all of the green spaces throughout the entire RM. This is around the green spaces with the store, the bakery, throughout the trail system, the entire trail system, by the way, not just one spot. So when we're talking about not having as many injuries as a result of snowmobiles, well, we've never had this many people up here before, and because we have more people staying up here on a more regular basis, and because we're going to have more snowmobiles out, then yes, there is a higher likelihood of somebody getting hurt. They're going along avenues, which they're not allowed to do. They're going behind cabins. This last weekend, I had 6 that stormed down behind my cabin. They're going through the full trail system, and it's just too much. I mean, yes, maybe we can tailor it a little bit, but we have to accept that because of COVID, unfortunately, it's created a brand new norm. And it's great that people want to enjoy Victoria Beach, but we have to put a limit on where off-road vehicles can go in the RM in the wintertime and the summertime. And unfortunately, this is something that I think really does need to be done.
Thank you, Steve. Erwin?
As you all know, I had a career in commercial insurance and dealt with snowmobiles, dealt with some pretty serious accidents, unfortunately. There's a couple of points I want to make. One, it is clearly illegal for an off-road vehicle, whether it be a snowmobile or an ATV, to operate on any roadway, period. Now, the reality is that's happening in our municipality. I think we need to take a hard look at 1582, because when we reread it, we realized that there was some clauses in there that were somewhat ambiguous, and 1582 through 1614 needs to be corrected. I am concerned that this is happening very quickly. I think we need to get some feedback from the local snowmobile club. They add a lot of value in terms of their grooming, and I think we need to have some discussions with them to get their input. At the end of the day, it may be time for us to consider what I call the Pinawa solution. The town of Pinawa, about 15 years ago, enacted a bylaw which allows the operator of a snowmobile or off-road vehicle to drive their machine from their home to the nearest accessible either ditch or trail, provided they do it in a direct way. I'd like to suggest that we impose some further speed limits for that movement, and also take some of the rules that we use for the AB to VB trail with respect to what happens when you approach a pedestrian. Clearly, we cannot have machines running around back lanes on roads at high speeds within our municipality, period. But we need to have a balanced, reasonable adjustment. I don't like to force people to have to move their machines in a reasonable way and break the law. That needs to change. We would need to apply to the province for permission in order to accept the bylaw. And I think we need to take a serious look at this. Make it safe, make it reasonable, make it accessible.
I have had a conversation on email with the Victoria Beach Snowdrifter group. They do the maintenance on the trails from Albert Beach all the way around the outside of our peninsula down to Hillside. They groom along 59. They groom to the sports club on 59, and they groom north. 504, yeah. So there is an extensive set of trails in Victoria Beach that snowmobilers can use. There's an extensive set of trails, snowman trails, all over this province that snowmobilers can use. But you're right, Erwin, they have to safely get from their residence to the trails. But I would not be able to support at this point in time, opening up our entire municipality to allowing ORVs and snowmobiles on our roads. I couldn't do it. I just don't see that that's going to fly at all with our residents.
Now,
But I think I just think that
yeah,
right now, what we have now mostly seems to work. If you responsibly take your ORV from your home to the nearest ditch or trail,
Mhm.
no one's objecting.
If you're
And the
breaking the law,
saying,
And the,
Yeah,
and the
that's
police have
exactly it.
discretion. The
But
police
that's
have
exactly it.
discretion.
That's exactly what what Erwin said, which is that they're breaking the provincial statute.
Mhm.
But
Well,
under section 45 of the ORV statute, it says where a traffic authority has by bylaw permitted the operation of off-road vehicles across designated roadways or shoulders or portions thereof, it shall erect signs in accordance with the regulations. In other words, if we actively allow any sort of snowmobile to be able to use the avenues to be able to go access the snowman trail, which they can just simply trailer over and park in that parking lot legally. But if we're going to open up the avenues to off-road vehicles to allow them legally to be able to drive through them, then we have to sign the RM, and that's not that that's a provincial statute. It's section 45.4.
That's also not up to us to enforce. That's up to the police to enforce.
Mhm.
And if they are willing to allow Mike to take his snowmobile from his home, to get from his home to the ditch safely, we don't have an issue. It's
everywhere else.
well, if I could provide some comment on that.
okay, but Graham, I'd like to get Graham in first, Erwin, and then I will definitely get back to you. Graham?
Thank you, Penny. Just 3 or 4 points or comments. I agree with Mike, and I think we have to resist the urge to overreact. In the majority of cases, it's not objections to snowmobiles, except objections to snowmobiles speeding. And that we already have legislation to allow us to deal with that. The way I can't support 1614 the way it's presently worded. I think there's much more logical, reasonable, surgical approaches we could take to dealing with this, rather than an all or nothing shotgun approach, rather than just throwing out the pending Article 1C. I think that could be revised. Erwin has already offered some suggestions. There's a letter that I could comment on from Raymond to the Snowmobile Association, the Snowdrifters, in January of 2019, specifically indicating that the RAM has no intentions of outlawing snowmobiles. Be that as it may, we're all here trying to do the right thing for the whole community, and I don't think reneging on that is the right thing to do.
Raymond wants to have a word, and then we'll make sure everyone else has a chance.
I think it's important to understand the bylaw. The bylaw that's in place right now doesn't circumvent the statute. The off-road vehicle statute is enforced. You can't ride your snowmobile right now on roadways. That's not what the 1582 is stating. All 1582 is stating that for the purposes of the bylaw, snowmobiles are not regulated. In other words, they can go on municipal land. 1614, the only difference between 1614 and 1582 is including snowmobiles in the restriction. In other words, it's not banning them. It's saying you cannot drive a snowmobile on the properties that are outlined on the map. You can drive them anywhere else that is legal. You still can't drive them on roads, whether it's bylaw 1582 or bylaw 1614. and the police can charge you for any infraction under the Off-Road Vehicle Act. It is an off-road vehicle. 1582 never said the snowmobile was not an off-road vehicle. It said it was excluded from the bylaw. That's it. All the other provisions of the Off-Road Vehicle Act apply to snowmobiles, regardless of what bylaw is passed. That is not relevant to the issue at hand. We're strictly here saying you cannot drive, if the bylaw was to pass, all we're saying is you can't drive in that center portion of Victoria Beach, basically the sectional land, the piece north of Wanising,
Our existing now.
the piece in the area of the parking lot, and the piece a little bit north of the whole section of land. You can't use your snowmobile there, period. That's all this bylaw is doing, nothing else.
Forgive me for not understanding. Are there any of the snowmobile trails located on municipal land?
I don't believe there are.
I don't believe any of the snowman trails are municipal property, no.
No. If you go to the Victoria Beach Snowdrifters website,
Looked at the map, but I wasn't sure how far exactly where they were on the map. I couldn't tell whether it was on the side of the road or on municipal land.
they're on the side of the road.
Yeah, side of the road.
Yeah, they're on the roadways or,
You're allowed in ditches.
but the issue is what Erwin was talking about, going to the minister and opening up the entire RM to ORVs. I
How do you
think,
enforce it?
how are you going to enforce it? Whereas right now, and with this new bylaw, the police have the jurisdiction, have the authority, and they have the flexibility, if required, to charge people under the ORV Act if they're misbehaving.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's how we have been operating.
Mhm.
And it's been working. But the issue that I'm seeing is that some snowmobilers, and it's not the club, it's not generally those snowman groups, don't know the rules, don't want to know the rules, or just simply aren't aware or whatever. But, you know, we can't have 6 going down Steve's back lane or, you know, 10 going in a group flying down Sunset Boulevard or Lakeview or Saffy's.
I mean, specifically, it was everywhere where the Hydro did their work this year.
Yeah, there's,
They viewed it as a new trail system, and I mean, I've been noticing cross country skiers and walkers and everything else. I mean, that's an issue for another time that we can deal with, you know, differently. But especially when we're talking about down to back lane. I mean, there's a lot of people who go into their back lanes periodically and they just walk around, and it can be a blind corner. You have a snowmobile that comes flying by. I mean, I went to my outhouse, I almost got hit.
For clarity, I'm not suggesting that, you know, we need to have a reasonable way to leave your residents at a slow speed, doing things safely, but not breaking the law. One of the concerns I have, and heaven forbid this should ever happen, but if a pedestrian gets hit on a back lane by a snowmobile, and then we find out the municipality is going to get sued because we had allowed this to happen, that's a scenario I just don't want.
That's the point of this bylaw. You are not allowing it to happen. You're saying you can't, if you're a snowmobile owner, you can't use it on municipal property.
Yeah.
You can still go in the ditches. You can access the ditch system from your property. That's a police matter. They can allow you to do that if you're operating your vehicle, your ORV, in a respectful, proper manner. But this bylaw, all it's saying is you can't do circles at the village green. You can't go in the forested areas.
Yeah.
It's illegal as far as we're concerned under our bylaw. That's all this is saying, nothing else.
And I agree with Erwin. The issue with 1582 was there was ambiguity in there, and the intent of the ambiguity was to allow discretion in road access and that sort of thing. We did ourselves a disservice. That's fine. 1614 is an opportunity to resolve that. I would, by taking some of the ambiguity out of 1582 that carries forward into 1614. Let's lay it out, what the actual speeds are. What are the expectations of someone on a snowmobile or an ORV? And that is, you are allowed to use municipal roadways to go directly to the first access to a legal trail for your vehicle. And this is the speed that you must take. And oh, by the way, if you are using the AB to VB trail, you must come to a complete stop and give way to pedestrians and cyclists coming in an opposite direction anytime you're operating your vehicle.
And I was going to suggest that we,
yes. Okay.
Mike, I was suggesting in the email I sent to council a couple hours ago that those safety conditions would apply to the operation of any snowmobile, any ATV within the municipality while we're simply exiting our home to access the trails, period.
Absolutely.
That's already covered in the off-road
Yeah,
vehicle.
because I agree completely.
Raymond, we can apply to the province to get permission.
Yeah, but you know what? A lot of what Mike has outlined is already in the Off-Road Vehicle Act. It's up to the police to enforce it as they see fit. It's all there. You have to operate your off-road vehicle in a certain manner, and that's spelled out in the Off-Road Vehicle Act, which is a provincial statute, which is carries a lot more weight than any bylaw, because it's a provincial offense notice. The police issue a tag. So that carries a lot more weight than anything you ever put in the bylaw, because you still have to enforce it.
I guess finally, I can't approve a first reading because I haven't read 1614 yet.
It's identical to 1582, except that one clause.
I think we all agree that 1582, there's some ambiguities that need to be clarified. And I think between now and perhaps the next council meeting, some discussion should take place and perhaps some amendments be proposed. Food for thought.
I'll agree to that, and Mike's suggestions for clarification. All of these suggest that 1614, with its best intentions, needs a little bit more work yet.
Steve?
I mean, if everybody else is open to working with it, then sure. I mean, my off-road vehicles and me, I'm too tired to have this discussion again. But I've already said my piece. So the only point that I would note is yes, with the reference to the 2019 debacle. We did say what we said, but a whole lot has changed since then, and the numbers are dozens of times higher than they used to be. I had a conversation with somebody this last weekend who said that, sorry?
The numbers are higher than, what numbers are higher?
In terms of what?
Snowmobiles. So the number of snowmobiles, the numbers of people
okay.
in the winter. And I had a discussion with somebody recently who used to be a snowmobiler at Victoria Beach. They're too they're not youthful anymore to be able to do it. But they said, well, they said to me, how many snowmobiles like are around? I'm like, I have no idea. She's like, it's never used to be like this. And they were actually saying that they would like some structure over this, and simply because back in the day there were substantially less people, and now there's far more. So I get 2019 was only a couple of years ago, but a lot's changed since then.
Okay, so I'm hearing that council is not prepared to pass first reading of this bylaw, but I would like you to really think about the fact that the ORV Act supersedes anything that we're writing in bylaw 1614. So for us to go into detail in our own bylaw it's up to Joe Public, I believe, to also know the rules of the road if they own any ORV. They have to know what their responsibilities are.
Mhm.
And they can't be looking to a municipal bylaw to clarify everything. So I think we need to bear that in mind, but you know, it is one small change. I hear Mike hasn't read it, but it's merely to bring snowmobiles in line with other ORVs as they are, and let the police do their job when and if they see fit. So
I just don't see the parallel that cut and dry between an ATV and a snowmobile.
but in the
It's in the
ORV,
statute.
And that's fine.
Very
You'll
first
find-
thing was
yeah,
in the
okay, yeah.
statute.
I mean, it's
Well,
not, it's not our
The unfortunate
interpretation.
reality is that an awful lot of people think it's okay to operate on municipal roads.
It's not.
And
It's
unfortunately, you know,
And
most
it's not.
of them are doing it in a reasonable way.
Yes, they are.
It's a few, as Penny had said earlier, it's a few bad apples that are spoiling it for everyone. But it's a combination of education and enforcement, and perhaps a reasonable amendment to 1614.
And I mean, with respect, yeah, they might be doing it reasonably, but they're breaking the law reasonably. I mean, it's cut and dry in the statute. Anyway, I just don't know why we're having the conversation in the first place at this point. So it's
That is up to the police to enforce, not council, right? So, okay, so gentlemen, back to this bylaw. I had a mover and a seconder.
Can I make a suggestion? Can we just table the bylaw till next meeting and perhaps give everyone a chance to thoroughly review it? I mean, we got it yesterday or today, and perhaps come back to us with a better understanding of what's being, what we want to accomplish.
I would like to see it tabled rather than killed outright. It's just the luck of the draw and the calendar, the Christmas, the holiday vacation schedule, and that we weren't able to get this stuff till the last minute. That's nobody's fault. That's just the way it is. So this is all rather hasty to what's on the outside looking in.
All right, so I'm hearing that we will table this until the next council meeting. We're all good with that? Okay, thank you.
I just wanted to echo.
Or perhaps the council meeting following that, give it a month.
Well,
I think 2 months will do it.
Snowmobile season
Yeah.
could be over in a month.
That's wishful thinking.
It's important to move forward in a reasonable
So
manner.
We'll make this a directed effort to have the review done and a version ready for first reading, but for next meeting.
Okay.
And
Thank you.
I just wanted to echo what Penny said, which is that if you own an ORV, go read the ORV Act. Make yourself fully familiar with what you're allowed to do, and familiarize it as well with MPI. MPI has they make it very cut and dry and non-legalese.
Yep, they've got 2 great pamphlets online, one for snowmobiles, one for ATVs.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. Moving on to input on Lake Winnipeg nutrient targets. I sent this out. I don't know if you had it. I don't think you've had a chance to look at it, but it was a press release put out by the province, and there was a little 3-liner in that free press on Saturday asking if people wanted to submit comments online. And I don't, this is more for the public as well as council members, but they do want comments to be sent in on Lake Winnipeg. It's the province announces consultation on nutrient targets for Lake Winnipeg. They're taking comments until February 26th. And this is a provincial initiative. Graham.
I saw we received your email on that, Penny, which says exactly what you said it says. Is there any provision for council or for RMVB as a body to make comment or suggestion, or is it more tailored to individual persons?
It doesn't say one way or the other. I'm sure council could if they wanted. I'm sure the South Basin mayors and Rees will have something to say, and probably the Lake Winnipeg Foundation, groups like that will certainly have things to say. So I'm sure councils can as well.
Well, I have every reason to want to support whatever consolidated statement council has to make to this, and I'd be willing to assist in drafting that if that's any help.
Okay, thank you. I'll see what some of these other groups that I'm involved with are doing, and we may not have to reinvent the whole wheel. I mean, what do I know about actual targets and about actual nutrient values? I don't know a whole lot about it, but there are other people out there who do. Steve?
You can literally just say, see all data ever researched on Lake Winnipeg nutrient targets. Like, that's how simple it is. So yeah, I mean, we can get that information very easily and put it forward.
Okay. All right.
Good point.
Okay.
They are important.
It is
Doing some
important.
reading as well.
Yeah.
It's scary what's happening.
Yeah.
What's happening already to other lakes, and it's starting to happen to our lake.
Mhm. So maybe just put that in the back of your brain for a little bit, and if you want to send me stuff, we can maybe try and put things together. I'll check with the South Basin, and I'll check with Colleen Sklar over at the Metro region, see what she's got going on. Correspondence. It's been pretty quiet over the Christmas break.
It was feeling that someone asked me a question. I said I'd bring it up in correspondence, and I'm going to hear about it tomorrow. It has completely slipped my mind.
Okay,
It was
Graham.
nothing major.
Okay, Graham, do you have anything for correspondence?
No, not this time. Thank you very much. But I think it's important that councilors do diligently look through the correspondence and bring relevant topics up to the meeting for discussion. But this time around, nothing stands out for me. Thank you.
Steve? No? Erwin?
Well, there was correspondence about snowmobiles and ATVs, and we've already discussed that, so.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, I don't have anything else. So motion to adjourn.
Oh, sorry, just one thing. It just popped into my head. If you're going out on the ice right now, I would highly advise not to. There was a what do they call it? An ice crack.
Pressure crack.
Yeah, pressure crack. The ice right now is highly unstable. So if you're going out, just don't. Yeah.
Nothing heavier than a snowmobile.
Oh, nothing heavier than a snow. Well, what about an ice fishing shack? They weigh more than a snowmobile?
Well, the crack was kilometers long.
Depends how much beer is in them. Yeah.
What did you say?
How much stuff is in them?
Yeah, how much stuff is in them? Yeah.
Okay.
But
Sure.
to add weight to what Steve has said, one of the comments from the snowdrifters, they were horrified to see motor vehicles out on the ice. How can people be so crazy?
There's not enough ice in it yet. There's not enough, I mean, the weather's been so warm, the only saving grace is the lack of snow, so there's not as much insulation, so we do have an appreciable amount of ice. I'd be taking a truck or ice quite yet.
Even when there's good thickness, the winds can create a pressure ridge or a crack anytime it feels like it.
Yeah, just be careful out there, folks.
All right, so motion to adjourn. I haven't even mover. Mike, seconder. Erwin, thank you.
Gold medal game's on.
Oh, gold medal games. Okay, all those in favor of adjourning this council meeting. Our next meeting is Tuesday, January 19th, 2021, here in Winnipeg, 6 p.m. All those in favor? Carried.
Right, you are.
Thank you, everyone.